love the night.
I hate the rain.
The night air is heavy and sweet.
But I hate the rain.
The rain will eventually stop.
The night will eventually become day.
Bargain bin Splinter Cell with vampires. That's the best way of describing Vampire Rain. Or bargain bin Metal Gear Solid with vampires, but that series had a vampire, or sort of. Vampire Rain does pull more elements from the world of survival horror with its stealth, but the end result is a mess. Instead of giving the player freedom with stealth options, it funnels you down one specific path for most of its runtime. It has a story and world where it's not sure what it wants to be. It doesn't have a distinct identity, pulling many threads from other series. Vampire Rain has a reputation of being one of the worst games around. One of the worst for the 360 or PS3 or its time frame of 2007 and 2008. A case of it's so bad it's good. Do I agree with this? Not quite. I found myself enjoying the game more than I was expecting given the game's review scores, many outlets giving the game a score in the 30s. That said, it's not some overlooked title by any stretch. Those review scores are understandable, especially when you consider this time frame and the quality of games released on the regular. The so bad it's good moments that I was looking forward to, they were few and far between. I was expecting more of coming in. Instead, most of these moments are bad, period, or baffling. Vampire Rain is also a title from a bygone era. This time frame of the 7th generation, the Xbox 360, PS3, Wii era, saw the decline of the mid-budget title. What used to be a staple of the gaming market phased out as the cost of development continued to rise. And while there is a bit of a resurgence of the mid-budget title these days, it's nowhere near the numbers that we used to see, when studios and publishers still had that mentality of throwing things at the wall and seeing what would stick. And what they threw at the wall here with Vampire Rain is another mess. A game that lacks bite despite sporting fangs.
In short, will destroy their eyes and ears and steal their teeth.
A few notes before beginning, I am playing the PS3 version here, which came out a year later in 2008 after the 360 release in 2007. From what I've looked up, there's little difference between the two beyond the PS3 version fixing some bugs. There is a multiplayer mode, which I won't be covering in this video. I'd also like to thank the fellow Boulder Punchers who give extra support to the channel through Patreon and YouTube memberships. If you'd like early access to videos such as this one, be featured in the credits, newsletter updates, take part in polls, Discord roles on the Discord, consider supporting the channel. Those in the higher tiers of support will have their names read in the closing credits. I recently revamped the Patreon to change tier names and rewards. Depending on when you're watching this, there may be a 1-month discount for all tiers on Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel but not on a monthly basis, consider leaving a super thanks here on YouTube or a donation on Ko-fi. All these links will be in the description and pinned comments, including a link to the Boulder Punch Discord if you're interested. If you have the means to support the channel, do give it some consideration. That said, your views, likes, comments, subscriptions are more than enough to keep the channel going. You have a heart of gold. Don't let them take it from you. So let's dive into Vampire Rain. I will give Vampire Rain props for an excellent intro cutscene for building intrigue, one deserving a far better game to go along with it. A lone woman at night walking home from work. Feeling that someone or something is following her, she heads into a nearby alley, although not the best of choices in these kind of situations. We cut to flashing computer screens of various tidbits of data. Abnormalities of humans, a list of missing people. According to the manual, millions of people disappear each year without a trace. On the note in the manual, it does give some decent tidbits of information on the world at large, our main cast of characters. Again, this time frame of the 7th generation, the 360, PS3, Wii era, does mark as a bit of a swan song for the gaming manual. Around this time frame, it became common for a manual to only have a handful of pages, where to include things like the controls or EULA, but that's about it. The game manual used to be part of that complete package of a game in more ways than one. You could add so much more to the game with a manual. You're driving home with your parents, whether it was from Blockbuster or you bought the game, it was so great to read through and smell that manual. It really helps the game's character shine even more. But alas, that's one of those elements that have become lost to time, where in-game tutorials took over what a manual could teach you, where you didn't need to read a manual beforehand to get an idea of the gameplay systems, because by that point, there was next to nothing in the manual. But let's continue on with this game's intro. One screen mentions a billionaire Lord Hessler. someone who contributes his own funds to a local reconstruction project. There may be a link between him and these mass disappearances. Of the missing persons list, there's a couple of note, one being Dr. Ernst Foley and his daughter Emily Foley. Closing off this cutscene is a shot of a screaming vampire, as they're known in this game, Nightwalkers. Beyond a few instances, the word vampire receives little usage. As far as boot-up cutscenes go, it really grabbed my attention. I want to see what comes next here. And this intrigue continues with the following cutscene when you start a new game. East France, the year of 1430. A young girl in chains as the sun rises. She is a vampire, but the sun has no effect on her. A man approaches her and frees her, one with the same condition. A vampire, but one created by nature and not a bite.
It's been 800 years since I last met a vampire created by nature, not a bite. Do not fear me. I am like you, a natural vampire. What is your name, child?
Monique.
We cut to the present day. This is the American Information Bureau, or the AIB. They set up a special combat unit to eliminate the Nightwalkers. And this is where the intrigue ends and outright stumbles. Listen to some of this on-the-nose expository dialogue.
Sir, is the Nightwalker population really expected to exceed that of humans in 908 days?
Where did you hear that?
One of the lab boys, sir. He also said that if the growth went unchecked, 80 million people may be killed.
That's what happens when you let pencil pushers run a country. They did absolutely nothing, while Nightwalkers claimed victims every night.
I heard about your family, sir. I'm sorry.
So am I, son. So am I.
In some city on the west coast, a recon team went in before the Nightwalker extermination team. As the Nightwalker extermination team, we're here to take out the Prime Nightwalker, the head honcho vampire of the area. Take them out and all Nightwalkers spawned from them will die. We have a team of 4. We play as John Lloyd, looking like a cross between Solid Snake and Sam Fisher. At first I thought he was the silent protagonist. He doesn't speak during this opening cutscene, but that's not the case. He's a man of few words throughout. Lloyd was the only survivor from an incident 5 years ago when Nightwalkers wiped out his team. Leading the Nightwalker extermination team is Hank Harrison. He fills the gruff military leader trope and our demolition expert. Despite Lloyd being the only member of the team with previous experience with Nightwalkers, Harrison is the leader. Claire Kelly is our resident tomboy and sniper of the group. Her brother was part of Lloyd's team that died in that incident 5 years ago. Rounding out our group is Dwayne Hansen. An MIT dropout, he's our driver and tech expert of the group. He'll tend to stay with a vehicle as we make our way around. I have to note the vehicle we drive around in, our command vehicle, trying to remain inconspicuous in this pizza delivery man. Sorry, I mean pizza deliver man. You shouldn't be drawing attention to yourself with improper grammar. Might want to get that adjusted. Then again, as we'll see, these Nightwalkers, they're not the brightest of the bunch.
Heading somewhere?
I'm going to interrogate that woman we captured.
In that case, take the truck.
I want to make note of the voices here. Vampire Rain doesn't have credits for its voiceovers, but you'll recognize many of them, whether from games, anime dubs. Wendy Lee was the game's voice director, and her voice pops up throughout. Ones you'll also recognize include Nolan North and Yuri Lowenthal. But Hansen, our driver and tech expert, I know that voice, but from where?
Yes, sir. I've located the spot where the advanced team stored the ammo and weapons. I've also learned the advanced team died at the hands of their leader, Eric Russell. He was attacked by a Nightwalker just before we arrived here. Normally, transformation into a Nightwalker takes time, but Russell's change was quick.
Despite no official listing, this is definitely David Rees-Snells who voices Hansen. Those of exquisite taste will know him as Ronnie Gardocki from The Shield. If you haven't watched The Shield before, what are you waiting for? I watched it for the first time last year. I've been meaning to watch it for the longest time. Once I started, I was kicking myself for having not watched it sooner. Set in Los Angeles, The Shield follows a strike team within the LAPD that likes to push and bend the law to their whims. The Shield ran on FX from 2002 to 2008. While receiving much praise, it never received the recognition of what channels like HBO were putting out around that time frame, like The Sopranos or The Wire. The Wire also ran from 2002 to 2008. But it's right up there with the very best that shows like The Sopranos or The Wire could offer, in some areas even surpassing them. I can't think of a show that does a better job of having characters dealing with the consequences of their actions, starting from the very first episode, with choices and consequences piling up over the course of seasons, where the strike team can't help themselves in some of their decisions, which digs them into a deeper hole. This all builds up to a finale where I'm hard-pressed to think of a better ending for a show. So many great shows fumble their ending, but The Shield sticks the landing that's a perfect fit for the show. It has one of the best casts to a show I've come across. The Shield was the breakout role for Walton Goggins, who as of writing is in the spotlight for his recent output. Go watch the pilot, which is one of the best around. It will hook you, especially with its ending. That closing montage with that Kid Rock song you always forget the name of or how to spell oozes that early 2000s feel. I won't give my rendition of it, but I do have someone who will.
Ball with the ball, da bang, diggy, 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 said the boogie, said up, jump the boogie.
And that theme song for The Shield, the one that comes blaring in at a high volume way higher in the mix, such a perfect fit for the show. Gets you pumped up for what's to come. I'd play it, but I may end up with a copyright strike, so I'll do my best attempt at it. Just another day! Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do day! I hope my singing didn't put you off the show there. I'm sure I've had several people click off this video after that attempt, but please do go watch the show. Oh yeah, what was I talking about? Right, Vampire Rain. Let's get back to the topic at hand. We can't get in contact with the advanced team. We head out into the night to the rendezvous point to see if we can get in contact with them. Vampire Rain came out during an interesting time frame when it comes to the stealth genre. A bit of a period of slim pickings with regard to major releases. The Xbox 360 release was in the summer of 2007 for Western audiences. Splinter Cell series on a bit of a hiatus. You had Double Agent the year before, with the series not returning with Conviction in 2010, with a more action-heavy approach. Hitman would chart the same course. Vampire Rain came out a few months before the first Assassin's Creed. The PS3 version, which I'm playing here, released in the fall of 2008, after the launch of Metal Gear Solid 4, which was more or less the most anticipated title on the PS3 up until that point. You'd have the Batman Arkham series giving their take on stealth mixed in with other elements. Games with heavy emphasis on stealth would take a bit of a backseat as the cost of development rose, leaving us with games like Vampire Rain, which once again you don't see that often anymore. That mid-budget title that used to be the bread and butter of the gaming market. So, how does Vampire Rain handle? It plays like Splinter Cell, with far more jank and lack of polish. The controls are similar, but they feel a bit off. Especially when it comes to sneaking around, but hold that thought for now. When it comes to its UI, it does bear a strong resemblance to what Metal Gear Solid 4 was doing with its own. We'll spend a good chunk of the game out in these city streets. We'll have our objectives. We'll have to deal with, or more often than not, avoid the Nightwalkers altogether. Beyond the late game edition, these are the only enemies that we will face. There's a bit further into the game where I thought security cameras would enter the fold. Something else we'd have to take into consideration? No, it's only in one mission where you have to help your team and disable them. Besides, the Nightwalkers, they're more than enough to deal with. Using our Necrovision, yeah, that's what it's called, Necrovision, we can mark Nightwalkers on our minimap. It's used to identify Nightwalkers from regular humans. It's rare, but there still are some humans still hanging out around town. Why the Nightwalkers aren't going after them, I don't know why. Vampire Rain feels a bit ahead of the curve here with its marking system, something that became common in future stealth titles. This will show their line of sight on the map, handy to have. There is a bit of a grace period if they do spot you. The game gives you ample warning if they're suspicious. You have a couple moments to get out of sight, and you'll want to. This is where more of the survival horror elements of Vampire Rain come into place. When Nightwalkers do detect you, they'll go into a rage and make a beeline for you. At this point, you're more or less done for, depending on what weapons you have on hand. Your pistol, next to useless. Semi-auto, it's going to take about a full round to deal with them. Unless you're precise with your shots and have plenty of space between them, you're done for. They'll be over to you in no time and smack you around. All it takes, 2 hits. I can recall only one time where I survived from a Nightwalker attack after getting hit. I was with my teammates and they managed to kill the Nightwalker after I took a hit. But with a sniper rifle or a shotgun, you can deal with Nightwalkers in 1 or 2 hits. Thing is, Vampire Rain dictates when you have these weapons. It's common to have one mission where you'll snipe Nightwalkers, only for the next mission to take that sniper rifle away from you. No real narrative reason. The game wants you to take a stealth approach instead, because that's how the game rolls. We'll also have these turret-like sections, where the game will have Nightwalkers making a conga line toward us. Instead of a turret, we'll have a stash of weapons, and may have access to a sniper rifle or shotgun, or our team will also be with us. There's an odd moment later in the game where we'll have one of these conga line turret sections, where the game gives us a sniper rifle or shotgun. Were they lying on the ground? No, it appeared in our inventory out of thin air. But we do have other options that open up later in the game, like the UV knives. One that have a one-time use. Sneak up on a Nightwalker for an instant kill.
You did it!
And here lies one of the largest issues with the game's controls. Where it comes to stealth speed while crouching, you more or less have 2 speeds. Full speed or slow speed. It's not like something like a Splinter Cell where you have a variety of speeds depending on how you tilt the stick. You know in stealth games where you're sneaking up to get the grab and you're praying that they don't turn? Countless times during Vampire Rain I'd end up going full speed and crouch by accident, which would alert the Nightwalkers, which at that point you're done for. Enjoy that game over screen, you're going to be seeing plenty of it. Which I will give Vampire Rain credit for. It is a cool game over screen. By far the game's best element for its gameplay is when the parent walkers enter the fold. If you kill this Nightwalker, it will kill other Nightwalkers that it has a connection to. You can use your Necrovision to determine which Nightwalker is the parent. Here the game becomes more like a puzzle. Sure, you can make use of your knives on other Nightwalkers, but why not save the hassle and take out the parent walker? I have to note the characteristics of Nightwalkers here. They don't have what I call a strong, distinct identity. Like the developers weren't quite sure what to do with them. Watch this cutscene where they spring to life. I'm not sure if they're trying to spook the player, make them laugh, or a combination of the two. They're not the sharpest tools in the shed. It's quite amusing during sniper sections to take them out. 2 can be right next to one another, staring at one another, and won't react when the other dies. Or how they can be right next to each other and not hear the death cries of another when you stealth kill them with a knife. And unlike a staple of the stealth genre, overhearing guard conversations, there's a little of it here. And when they do, they have this odd, emotionless, lifeless quality to them, where it feels like they weren't quite sure again what they were going for.
That woman they caught, where did they take her?
She's been moved to a holding facility.
Her presence worries me.
I've had extra guards placed around her. She won't be going anywhere soon.
I wonder who sent her.
If you want, I could interrogate her.
Yes, please take care of it right away.
Which is interesting to know, as this mid to late 2000s time frame did have vampires as prominent figures in pop culture. Variety of fronts, underworld movies, Twilight, True Blood, each had their own flair and identity when it comes to creatures of the night. Vampire Rain feels quite lacking. As much I like this gameplay system idea with the parent walker, the game works against it every turn with its layout. You know what makes for a quality stealth game? Player freedom and options. Give them the choice of taking a few routes to bypass enemies, or equipment to even the playing field. Beyond a few stretches, Vampire Rain offers little in player freedom. It's the game's way or the highway. It's common to have weapon loadouts which make killing Nightwalkers near impossible, so instead you have to stealth around. But due to their layout and your options, the game will follow you down one specific path. You may have the option of shooting pigeons to distract Nightwalkers, but that's more or less it on that front. And these city blocks where most missions take place, they place major restrictions on you. The game won't let you take the long way around to avoid Nightwalkers. The dreaded invisible wall rears its ugly head.
Stick with the mission, please.
Did you forget your mission, soldier?
There's this one case where I tried to jump over a wall, but the game placed an invisible wall there. There's only one way you could get there, and it's the way the game wants. Not to say the entire game is like this, but having the game dictate one solution is the norm and not the exception, which flies in the face of what makes for a quality stealth experience. And these city blocks will become a real drag as we revisit them over and over and over again. They'll change in different grid formations, but a vast majority of Vampire Reign takes place in them. There is the occasional interior section, and once again the sewer. If this were a Civ 11 or a Grimbeard video, add the sewer count or rat roundup here. What adds to the frustration with Vampire Reign is how often the game takes control away from the player. It's also common to run down a street and have the game play out a cutscene about something. Now, some of these are fine, like showing the layout of a stealth arena with several Nightwalkers. More often than not, they'll have several play out in short time when an in-game conversation would have been fine, or had only one cutscene. It's the game's equivalent of a work meeting that could have been an email. It does remind me of Max Payne 3, with how often the game would take control away from the player. But there, at least you had some fantastic gunplay and well-shot cutscenes. Vampire Reign, you have a muddled mess of gameplay with low-energy interruptions, where things come to a grinding halt.
Come on.
With how restrictive the game can be, it does feel a bit ahead of its time. This was a 2007 release. Around this time frame, there was a notable shift in how hand-holding games could become. Vampire Reign is a perfect example of what was to come with the future of gaming. And because yellow paint is a common point of mockery these days, I do want to bring up the use of yellow in Vampire Reign. The game uses lighting to guide the player, but will also make use of yellow. No, not yellow paint splashed everywhere, but weapons will have placements next to ladders or walls we could climb. There will be a yellow indicator over the weapon, or some ladders will be yellow. And hey, yellow works for a reason to guide the player. It's an eye-catching color that tends to contrast from the rest of the environment. It's easy to spot. Grabs our attention. So while it's not egregious, there are elements here that seem to predict how game design would evolve or devolve since then. Before we move on to the major beats of the campaign, I want to bring up the game's music. Vampire Reign's music, pretty reasonable. There's this one stealth track with the strings that bring to mind a cartoon character sneaking around. And then there's this one track that jumped out at me. I've heard that sound before. That's from the intro to the song Disappear by Dream Theater off their double album 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. Digging around some more, turns out the sample comes from the sample CD Distorted Reality, because of course it does. The amount of samples that made their way into games from the sample CD is utterly staggering, most notable being the Silent Hill series. There's some great videos on YouTube diving into the samples that Silent Hill made use of if you're interested in exploring that further. With that, let's go through some of the major beats of the plot in the campaign, so spoilers ahead. That said, I don't predict many of you will go out of your way to seek this game out after this video, but still, spoiler warning. Story here, as I mentioned, is a jumbled mess, although that's later on in the campaign. For now, we're on a wild goose chase trying to find the advance team. We've lost communication with them. Early on, we'll come across these markings on walls. What they are and what they mean to Nightwalkers are unknown at the given time.
Lloyd, take a look at this.
Looks like something drawn by a Nightwalker using blood.
If that's blood, the rain would have washed it away.
Yeah, but the blood's been mixed with a hardener.
Hardener? What kind of hardener?
Do you really want to know?
No, I guess not. I'm more interested in what this drawing means. These markings, they look like the astrological symbols for the sun and the moon. I've never heard of anything like this showing up in a Nightwalker-infested town. We'd better report this to headquarters later on when we have the chance. Maybe someone over there can make some sense out of it.
Searching for the advance team is very much a case of your princess is in another castle syndrome. Are they at the rendezvous point? Nope. What about the command vehicle of the advance team? It's shot up, no one's inside. We can get a reading on their transmitter though. At least the captain appears to be still alive, but the others, not so fortunate. We will come across the captain, one that Harrison has a history with, but it's a bit too late for him. I have to note the cutscene difference here. It takes one bullet from a handgun to take out the captain in his Nightwalker form. Wish we were able to do the same thing during gameplay.
Eric, you okay?
Yeah, Hank. I'm fine.
Well then, let's head over to my command vehicle. You can fill us in on what happened to your team. Eric, your pulse and temp hit rock bottom. If you were human, you never could have walked. Forget standing on your own.
Captain.
He was a good friend, a good husband, with a lovely wife waiting for him at home.
With no other teams in the vicinity and the raid not expected to last much longer, it's up to the four of us to kill the Prime Walker. While the advance team may be dead, what they left behind isn't, which continues this goose chase, one that lasts for most of the game. Find what the advance team left behind. Now it's time to find the black box which holds data of what the advance team were up to. Why AIB headquarters doesn't have that information, I'm not sure, but I guess we need something to do. And this black box does give information about where the advance team stored weapons and ammunition. It also has a message from an unknown party with a notable phrase.
That's it?
That's it, Captain.
The voice probably belongs to the creature that turned Russell into a Nightwalker. Request headquarters to search all transmissions to and from this city. Get them to look for messages containing the cycle of the sun and the full moon.
I'll get right on it, sir.
Those writings we found earlier look like a sun and a full moon. Is there a possible connection? One mission takes us to the hotel to collect weapons from the advance team. Interesting to note that the vampires aren't tougher or more aware as a result with no rain. Harrison brought up earlier how helpful the rain is against the vampire in dampening their senses.
I hate rain.
We're lucky to have it. The stuff is supposed to dampen a Nightwalker's senses. Without the rain, they'd find us in a sec and make mincemeat out of us.
Along with the weapons inside the hotel, we'll come across further intel. We now know who to look for as our Prime Walker.
Our Prime Walker now has a face. His name is Edward Van Dyke.
We finally get a break. I want you all to burn this guy's face in your memories.
Don't worry, Harrison. I don't think I'm going to confuse Van Dyke here with someone else. Van Dyke has quite the transformation phase here for his boss fight. I love the provocation and yell mentioned in the subtitles here. This is a simple fight. Lead him over the mines and then shoot him while stunned. Again, these Nightwalkers, not the sharpest tools in the shed. And when he goes down, he has a tiny sliver of health left. I guess there's one more phase to deal with. Shooting him over and over here does nothing. And of course, when we do go to leave, he does have one last burst of strength. So with the Prime Walker dead, mission accomplished, right? No Prime Walkers mean no more Nightwalkers. Well, it seems like there are still Nightwalkers about. There must be at least one other Prime Walker. We'll get our orders from Colonel Dixon at AIB to kill all Prime Walkers. And in a cutscene, we'll see the other 3 Prime Walkers that we're going to be dealing with.
What happened to Edward? Was it an accident, or was he terminated?
We are still investigating.
Is there any chance that the government is involved?
I haven't heard anything from our friends in Washington.
You've checked the AIB?
And the CIA, ODC, FBI, and every other government acronym. Is your scar bothering you? The cycle of the sun and the full moon draws near.
There are 3 of us. We can handle it.
Kelly, in pursuit of one of the Prime Walkers, ends up nabbed and taken away in a car, so it's off to us to find and rescue her. One thing I haven't brought up until now is this little girl we'll see throughout. Sometimes in the cutscene, sometimes in gameplay, she has a music box playing a haunting little melody, very much taking up the trope of the creepy child, oh so common in horror. So this here is Emily Foley, who we saw in the cutscene in the list of missing people. Is she a hallucination? At first it seems that way, until Harrison mentions later on that he sees her as well.
Lloyd, that question I wanted to ask you. I've seen this little girl walking around the streets a couple of times. Do you know? No, forget it. Forget I said anything.
So is she a ghost? What's going on here with her? Well, hold that thought for now. Through her combat cam, Callie was able to get a photo of the Prime Walker who nabbed her, one that Lloyd knows well. It was the Prime Walker who wiped out his squad from 5 years back, in which we get a flashback cutscene, and look who was there. Again, Emily Foley, once again with a music box in tow.
What's your name? Stay here. Be as quiet as you can.
Our next task is to find her father, the biologist Ernst Foley, who we saw missing in the opening credits along with his daughter Emily. While kidnapped by the Nightwalkers, Professor Foley isn't exactly held against his will here. He has a high level of curiosity of who or what they are, something that the Nightwalkers don't know themselves.
I have formed a theory.
And what is that?
Actually, it's more of a logical conclusion than an actual theory. First, Nightwalkers attack humans to create more Nightwalkers. Second, Nightwalkers cannot reproduce. Given these 2 conditions, there's only one possible conclusion.
Hands in the Captain Harrison. You've got Nightwalkers heading your way. Get out of there now.
While rescuing Professor Foley, we'll run to one of the remaining 3 Prime Walkers, the one we saw in prior cutscenes. This is James, the one who wiped out Lloyd's squad 5 years ago. We'll fight him in a warehouse full of boxes and crates. I will give the game credit for trying to change things up gameplay-wise with the bosses here. Execution is but then again you're not working with the most solid of foundations given the gameplay. You make your way through the warehouse and shoot James as he approaches to shoo him off for a time. That laugh of his is way up in the mix, and wouldn't sound out of place for an enemy from Killer 7. Once we get into position, Harrison will drop a crate on him, giving us the chance to kill him. I know Lloyd doesn't talk a whole lot. Considering what James did to his squad, now would be the perfect time for a cheesy Arnold one-liner. Something like, crate expectations, or time to pack it in. Do leave your crate-related one-liners if you have any in a comment below. Harrison asks Foley about the cycle of the sun and full moon. He seems a bit evasive of it. We get Foley out in an evac chopper to get him back to headquarters. Another cutscene plays with the 2 remaining Prime Walkers, and they make mention of a Lord Hessler, who they seem to be at odds with.
If they fell to humans, they weren't worthy of the cycle of the sun and the full moon.
Lord Hessler was never happy with the cycle of the sun and the full moon. How long are you planning to hide things from him? At the least, we should report that Edward and James are missing.
Eventually, I shall. Well, even if Lord Hessler doesn't agree with us, I'm sure he'll understand. For now, you'd be wise to keep your lips sealed, Meg.
This is the name that we saw in the game's intro. A billionaire, he's contributed his personal funds to a local reconstruction project. Once again, we're off on a wild goose chase to find things the advanced team left behind, like a data disk that might contain vital information for our mission. But at least in the meantime, it gets us off the streets and into a different environment. A welcome break. Up until now, it's more or less been these city blocks and various grids. But now we're further out from the city, where there's more natural terrain instead of other streets and buildings. Not a major or a long change by any stretch, but a welcome one after spending so much time in those streets. We have this amusing little in-game cutscene which brings up the classic trope of cutscene incompetence. Whenever we used our sniper so far, it doesn't matter if 2 Nightwalkers look at one another or stand next to one another. The other won't budge while the other dies, like nothing ever happened. Kelly goes to clear out some Nightwalkers with her sniper, with a silencer, but for whatever reason, the other Nightwalkers become aware of others dying.
There, get her.
In a way, I guess it's a bit of column A and column B. Cutscene incompetence on Kelly's part, cutscene competence on the Nightwalker's part. You know, moving forward for the future, I'm going to keep a running count of cases of cutscene incompetence in videos. I'm sure I've had dozens by now. Let's call this case number 38 of cutscene incompetence. We find the disc from the advanced team and head back into the city. We watch over the command vehicle as Hansen gets to work to uncovering its contents. But in the meantime, well, Lloyd here sure makes use of his sense of smell.
What's that smell?
Hansen, activate the explosive detection sensors.
Activating sensors.
What's going on? Nobody knows we're here. Who planted the bomb?
We've got a problem. Sensors have detected several explosive devices close to the command vehicle.
Should we run for it?
No. We can't afford to have even one explosion. It'll alert every civilian and Nightwalker in the city to our computers. We'll have to deactivate the devices.
Now that's quite the nose you have on you, Lloyd. It does look to be C4, which does have a distinct smell. Thing is, the rain here would mask some of that smell. If Lloyd had the smelling abilities of a canine, I guess it's possible, which did get me thinking. I mean, this is a world with vampires. You know what other mythological creature likes to show up in stories with vampires? Werewolves. Is our protagonist John Lloyd a werewolf? Spoiler alert, he is not. Too bad, that would have made for a hell of a twist. Think of the gameplay changes he could have had. Like how the Nightwalkers transform when they spot you. Imagine if Lloyd could do something similar in a full moon, where he'd turn to a werewolf. He'd be hungry like the wolf, like the Duran Duran song. Now, I brought that song up as it allows me to bring up the shield again. You know what scene I'm talking about involving Dutch if you've seen the show.
Just attack it. Like you're hungry. Like the wolf.
If this video gets one viewer to go watch the shield, I've done my job. But anyways, back to Vampire Rain. Of all the game's missions so far, this one's the most open, which I did welcome at first, but bomb defusing missions tend to not be the best, and Vampire Rain is no exception on that front, where you have to get in range for the radar to go off to give you an idea of where the bomb is. And this also requires a trip to the sewers for one bomb, which is never fun. Later on the mission, Hansen will call us up for a personal chat for next to no real reason, well beyond raising the death flag for poor Hansen.
Hansen to Lloyd?
Lloyd here. What's up, Hansen?
Sorry to bother you. I just hate being alone.
I know the feeling.
I don't think so. You and me are different animals. I don't belong in the military. I should have stayed in college. I'm sorry to bother you like this. I think this mission's getting me down. Could you kind of keep this conversation between us? Hansen out.
And that's exactly what happens once we finish defusing all the bombs.
If somebody was here, he's long gone.
He was only a kid.
Harrison tries to get into contact with HQ only to find all the equipment sabotaged. So up until now we've only dealt with the Nightwalkers, but now Vampire Rain throws a new enemy type our way. One with guns, wearing these gas masks, with quite the leaping ability. They wouldn't look out of place in a Metal Gear Solid title. Not as much health as Nightwalkers, but they can still take a chunk of ammo to kill. Their color is purple when you use the Necrovision on them. And man, fighting them in this warehouse is one of the game's most frustrating moments, and that's saying something. One thing we learned during the game's intro was that we can recover health by standing still, which you may have forgotten by now. I mean, up until now, beyond the two bosses, if you take damage from a Nightwalker, you're more or less screwed. It seems like a couple of times it wouldn't regenerate at all. It may have gone to a low enough point where it doesn't regenerate, at which point you might as well try again. Like dealing with the Nightwalkers, this warehouse fight is very much a trial and error affair. It took me far more tries than I thought it would. When we do finish them off, we come across some familiar equipment.
What were those things? They weren't Nightwalkers and they weren't human.
Look what they left behind.
This is AIB standard equipment.
I wonder what they were doing with it. Maybe they stole it from the late members of the advance team.
So once again, we're off to find some remains of what the advanced team left behind. My goodness, how spread out were they and how much did they leave behind here? Like, how many people were part of this team? But hey, we're now back again in the outskirts, which is a nice change, and now we're running low on ammo and weapons. We find the advanced team vehicle, but we can't seem to log into the AIB system. Margaret, one of the two remaining Prime Walkers, drops on by and gives us some info about the AIB.
With the cycle of the sun and the full moon fast arriving, how could this happen?
The cycle of the sun and the full moon?
I thought the AIB was the government's eyes and ears, not the bloody teeth. There's no need to lie. We're in touch with the AIB. They informed us that there was a rogue team out to get us. They warned us that we should be careful.
What?
The fight against her, it's okay, nothing great. Shine a spotlight on her to stun her and fire away, although she has quite the death scene. With this information, Harrison and Kelly think Colonel Dixon, who we saw in the cutscene before the game's tutorial, is the traitor at AIB. He's the only one with authority to cut us off from headquarters. Harrison guesses that these gas mask squads are AIB sent as well. We get a cutscene flashback of Monique, the vampire from the game's intro and the man who set her free. This man is Lord Hessler, the one we heard about earlier. Monique is now grown up at his side. You know, I thought vampires stayed the same appearance from when they become it. Then again, it shouldn't come as a surprise to you that we'll have to fight them later on. Having a fight against a kid to the death isn't exactly something review boards give much leeway to, which makes me wonder why they didn't make Monique a grown woman to begin with. Hessler's speech here reminds me of a cross of a Metal Gear Solid villain and Wesker from Resident Evil. And yeah, I don't have much of a clue where this part of the story is going, and that's going to continue.
Foley, the biologist, once told me something very interesting. He said that if you cool wine slowly, it stays liquid even below its freezing point. But when you apply just a little stimulation, an apt example of our current situation, isn't it?
I'm afraid the significance eludes me.
Both we and humankind are soaking in wine that has yet to reach its freezing point. As for us, we've yet to comprehend what it means for the wine to freeze.
We need to find a weapons cache to recoup our ammo and weapons to deal with the AIB and the Nightwalkers. Those two forces battle it out, although only in cutscenes. Too bad, I love when games have two opposing forces fighting you and you're a third party. Halo was always great with this. Let them duke it out and decide if you want to partake. That doesn't happen here. And now we reach the game's best moment, and in best I have that in quotations. This is one of those so bad it's good moments that the game exactly hasn't delivered on. But this, wow, what an incredible moment. Let's watch it unfold.
We won't be hurting for ammo for a long time. What are you doing?
I'm sure you have a fair idea.
So Dixon had one of his lackeys in my team. He really wants to start a war with the Nightwalkers, doesn't he? And he doesn't care how many lives it might cost.
The government fears a full-scale war. Every year, thousands of citizens disappear, but the government turns its cheek. Colonel Dixon can't tolerate the existence of the Nightwalkers.
War between the U.S. and the Nightwalkers might mean casualties in the millions.
That's right, and you'll be the one who started it all. An assault team led directly by the Colonel will soon be going for the last Prime Walker. I guess they found the Walker before we did.
Is it the same team we faced off against?
It's the main force. A team of pseudo-walkers jointly developed by the AIB and ODC lab boys. They'll get the job done. And when they do, neither the government nor the AIB will be able to stop all-out war.
Did Dixon plan this all along?
No. He schemed it when you found out there was more than one Prime Walker in the city.
So, he took advantage of a glitch in the operation.
Sorry it has to end like this. We made a good team. I even regret killing poor Hansen.
I fixed her gun to explode. She's lucky I thought to reduce the amount of powder. I suppose she'll wake up with a migraine. That's more than what she deserved for killing Hansen.
So I had to rewatch this scene a few times to see if I could piece things together. Colonel Dixon wants open war with the Nightwalkers to deal with the threat once and for all. Instead of the Nightwalker threat being a hush-hush affair, this would be out in the open. By killing the last Prime Walker, an all-out war would begin. And thanks to this oversight in the operation, there were 4 Prime Walkers instead of 1, there would be an all-out war as a result. But why? Is killing 4 Prime Walkers enough to bring things out in the open? You could tell here that they're going for Metal Gear shenanigans with the plot, but it's one of those things that makes even less sense the more you think about it. To be fair, it's not like the Metal Gear series didn't have this problem. Here, it's lacking bite. And then we have that fixed her gun to explode moment, which is such a funny line with how Harrison delivers it in such a matter-of-fact way. Why didn't Kelly do something earlier to stop us? Well, she did wait until we took out 3 of the 4 Prime Walkers. We were also short on ammo for a time. Good thing Harrison had the foresight here to rig her gun. He did also rig Lloyd's gun. He wasn't sure which one of us was the traitor. Again, it's one of those things the more you give thought to, the less sense it makes. It's one of those moments that baffles me, and like a snake eating its own tail, becomes kind of brilliant. It's too bad Vampire Reign had such few moments like this. So now to prevent all-out war, we have to find the last Prime Walker and stop AIB from killing him. But hold on, our objective here is to kill Charles, the final Nightwalker, and free the city of them? What? Am I missing something here? We'll head inside where the AIB gas mask fellows are fighting Nightwalkers. Again, only in cutscenes, not like a Halo scenario where you could take part in warring factions or leave them be. As egregious as the game has been of taking control away for short cutscenes, game goes into overdrive here. Have a cutscene of the AIB and Nightwalkers duking it out. Move forward 10 steps. have another cutscene of the same thing. Why not have it all in one cutscene instead of doing this over and over? I brought up earlier, but this is such a great representation of the fact that it's like a work meeting that should have just simply been an email. So now it's time to deal with Charles, the final Prime Walker, which again, I thought we were going to stop AIB from killing him to prevent all-out war. There's no decision here that the game gives. It's a fight to the death. He does have quite the over-the-top pre-fight monologue, though. Credits to that.
The cycle of the sun and the full moon is here. Let my blood rain down over the land of the humans. Let them be transformed. This is the moment we leave the Mother Elite to create a new world. A city soaked by rain. The rain of my lifeblood. Soon, most who dwell here will join our ranks.
Stop it! You're only doing what Dixon wants you to do. He wants a war between our kind and yours. You're only helping him achieve his goal.
Quite a coincidence. For his wish is the same as mine. I hadn't planned to trigger the cycle so soon, but with none to stand in my way, I am free to create my kingdom here on this land.
And this fight against him takes forever. You get a shot on him, then a conga line of Nightwalkers will dash at you. Clear them out, shoot Charles again. Then he starts to fly around at great speeds. Lining up those sniper shots are a tricky affair, or of course you could also no-scope him. Not a bad fight, but one that goes on far too long. With his death, Charles gives a line that's oh so common in the Souls games.
Lord Hessler, forgive me.
But what about Harrison here?
Like my dental work? Yeah, a Nightwalker bit me when I was delivering Foley. I was afraid I would live the rest of my life as a Nightwalker. Thanks, Lloyd. Do me a favor. Tell my family I died as a man.
Also, one other thing I have to bring up. What about Kelly? After we knocked her out, did Harrison and Lloyd leave her there? Lock her up in the command vehicle? Who knows? Monique comes by, mentioning she's an elite walker. One who gave birth to the Nightwalkers. A vampire born by nature, like Lord Hessler. Only her and Lord Hessler remain. I don't know if there's any more elite walkers in the world, but Lord Hessler wishes to talk to us. Which leads to another one of these baffling scenes where Monique realizes what Lloyd has in mind.
Lord Hessler has instructed me to let you live.
Is that so?
But you would seek to put an end to his life.
Yes, I would.
Then I cannot allow you to live!
What did you think Lloyd was going to do, Monique? This fight serves as the game's climax. All things considered with the game's lackluster gameplay, it's not a bad boss fight. I guess I haven't mentioned it up till now, but the game's developer is Japanese. Always leave it to Japanese to craft okay boss fights, even here when the foundations are lacking.
I can't let you end life, Lord Hessler. I wish we could have seen the other side of the ridge together.
Lord Hessler puts up no resistance. And here we have a choice. Kill Lord Hessler or spare him. If you kill Lord Hessler, Emily Foley, the ghost-like figure from earlier, resurrects Lord Hessler with a drop of wine? Well, it may not be Lord Hessler, could be someone else, we just see the arm, but I'm going to guess it's him. And if we spare him, Emily takes his hand and they walk off. What in the world was going on here with the story, especially the last quarter or so? And I also haven't mentioned until now, there are dossier files on the main characters that will unlock throughout. Some quite long to read, but more about character backgrounds and doesn't give a whole lot more insight into what's going on in the grand scheme of things. I don't want to say it comes across as sequel bait, leaving some things that a sequel could address, or leave things open to interpretation. More feels like they didn't have time to finish up the story, leaving some bizarre open-ended questions as a result. Especially the whole thing at the end about stopping the AIB from killing the last Prime Walker, despite the game having us kill them. And what about Emily Foley here, and her father? Was she a creation of his experimentation? Were they elite walkers like Monique and Lord Hessler? Was Lloyd actually a werewolf and something the sequel would address? Well, that would never be the case. Vampire Reign didn't set the world on fire, sales-wise or review-wise. Most review outlets gave it the score of the 30s. Screw Attack named it the worst Xbox 360 game of 2007. Some ordinary gamers, Mudahar, before he became one of those The X Situation is Crazy channels, had a video on it from many years ago, calling it the worst Xbox 360 game, and the game equivalent of The Room. But the game does have fans that appreciate it for what it does. There's a few videos on YouTube that feel the game received too much hate and has its merits. I even took a stroll down the message board of GameFAQs to see what people said back in the day. There is plenty of trolling, and most asking for multiplayer matches to help get the achievements. Guess there wasn't that many people playing the multiplayer, but some did find enjoyment out of the game and didn't quite agree with those reviews. Now, where do I stand on it? I didn't find Vampire Reign as bad as reviews said it was. I'm sure there were worse games on the 360 in 2007. I didn't find it to be the game equivalent of The Room. There's not enough so bad it's good moments to merit that, but it's not like it's some overlooked gem that got too much hate. Were the reviews a bit harsh? Sure, but they also had much merit in their criticisms. And also, take into consideration the game's time frame of release. It came out for the 360 in 2007, and 2008 for the PS3. 2007 was a landmark year for game releases. A year that's brought up on the regular as one of the best in gaming. 2008, no slouch either in its releases. But this time frame also marked the disappearance of games like Vampire Reign. The rising cost of game development, these kind of mid-budget titles phased out over the course of the 7th generation, when studios and publishers still had that mentality of throwing things at the wall and seeing what would stick. And what they threw at the wall here with Vampire Reign? Well, it's a mess. A game that's never quite sure what it wants to be, where it takes elements of stealth but takes away much of player freedom. A story that meanders for a time and then piles on a whole bunch of plot threads that go nowhere. And not in the case of keeping things for a sequel to address or keeping things up in the air. Felt like they ran out of time and let things be. Now, there are some decent ideas, and there are brief moments where the game does come together, but that's few and far between. And those so bad's good moments I was hoping to get more of, there's little of it. Still, it was a fascinating title to look at from a bygone era of the industry. The Twilight, and no, I'm not referring to Twilight series with vampires, of the mid-budget title, it could deliver a wide quality of game experiences. Vampire Reign delivers one of the lesser experiences. Thanks for watching. I'd like to give a special shout out to the fellow Boulder Punchers who support the channel in the higher tiers on Patreon and YouTube memberships. For those in the thank you for your patronage tier, American Boot, Tom Terrible. For those in the now this is Boulder Punching tier, Ethan, the Madman in Waco. For those in the Jill Sandwich tier, BB F. in Bloxburg, Nico Pero, Sam Jones, Squid Vicious, Tiago Piera Santos Silva, and Will Han. And thanks for those who support the channel in the Master of Unlocking tier and thank you tier. If you'd like earlier access to videos such as this one, be featured in the credits, get newsletter updates, take part in the occasional poll, Discord roles on the Discord, consider supporting the channel. Those in the higher tiers of support will have their names read in the closing credits. If you'd like to support the channel but not on a monthly basis, consider leaving a super thanks here on YouTube or a donation on Ko-fi. All these links will be in the description and pinned comment, including a link to the Boulder Punch Discord if you're interested in joining the community. If you have the means to support the channel, do give it some consideration. That said, your views, likes, comments, subscriptions are more than enough to keep the channel going. You have a heart of gold. Don't let them take it from you. Oh, and go watch The Shield.
I thought you'd like to know that any gunfire won't be heard outside this building.
You came all the way to tell us that?
Ball with the ball, the bang, diggy, 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 said the boogie, said up, jump the boogie.